Hello, people. Welcome to another live. Welcome to another live, y'all. We are going to make this a really interesting live before the weekend begins. My mission is to be here each and every single day for the coming time, right before we are going to the end of this year. Come on in. I'm on TikTok. Welcome to the people that are on TikTok live. That's on this side. And for the people that are on YouTube, welcome for the people that are here on the YouTube live. Welcome. Really appreciate it. For you to come in, just join me. Come on in. Drop on in. Oh, in the meantime, I'm doing a couple of things. I'm doing a couple of things. Getting a couple of things in order. Unfortunately, my battery of the tablet is almost coming to an end, so we have to save this. Oh, I don't want y'all falling over. Oh, gee. Oh, gee. Oh, gee. Oh, gee. I guess I have to hold you like this. Okay, well, we just have to work with what we got. Welcome into the live. So, the last couple of lives that I've been present, we have been talking about workflow automation. I hope that you've been enjoying it so far. My approach when it comes to workflow automation is just to give you the information that is necessary for you to know from a standpoint of being an entrepreneur, of being a business owner, of being a creative, an artist, and all of those things. And the reason why I want y'all to delve into that is because for me, that has been one of the biggest problems. How can I automate? I hope y'all can see me because this is the best that I can do right now. So for the people on TikTok, this is the best that I got. So I hope you can see me. But what is very important to know is that for workflow automation to work, one of the things that you definitely need to get into is just using your sane mind, your calm mind, your understanding mind, your strategic mind. When you're going into workflow automation, you cannot be thinking from a place where you are stressed out. You cannot be thinking from a place where you just want to solve and fix chaos. You cannot be thinking from a place where you're like, I want to get rid of the busyness. You are and will have to look at what you are doing. You have to look at your activities. You have to look at your processes and ask yourself, is what I am doing making sense? Right? So the title that I've given to the YouTube video is what are the best platforms that I can use to make it flexible as possible without any problems. And that is also one of the most asked questions when you go online, right? If you would type it in and you would want to know, well, what is the most asked question, frequently asked question, then this is one of the questions that comes up. How and what platform is the best platform that I can use for a flexible workflow automation? So first of all, before I go into that, workflow automation is literally automating your work. That's all it is. If you have ever made a schedule for yourself, that is workflow automation, meaning a schedule for your alarms. Setting your alarms is workflow automation. You being in a full-time or part-time job and you have to work with Copilot, in there is also automation. A lot of things that we are doing are automation, right? The way that trains are riding is automation. So it is not a difficult concept. But why it is becoming such an interesting concept is because of the fact that you can now incorporate AI into it, right? You can incorporate a language module into it. So then the question, of course, becomes for a lot of people, what is the best way for me? What is the best way for me to get to a place where I can use automation? Because I also want to use AI. I also want to use a language model. And I heard that that is a really great, easy way for me to get the work done easily. First of all, um, let's calm down. Let's calm down a little bit. Let's go back and make our senses work, right? Hey, people on TikTok. Hey, people on TikTok. Hey, people on the YouTube. Um, Here's the thing that I want you to think about first, right? What is your intention? What is your intention? What is your intention? Why do you want to use workflow automation? If your intention is to take away busyness around what it is that you're doing, your busyness has nothing to do with workflow automation. That is a problem that has to do with either the way that you are using and delegating your tasks, but it's not necessarily the work. Because if you're doing your work in an inefficient way that leads to busyness, then workflow automation will incorporate that busyness also in the flow. You don't want to do that, right? You want to have a workflow automation that makes sense, that will allow for you to work in a more efficient way. Efficient means smarter, not working harder, having things that actually make sense, not being so, everything, of course, has a budget, but you don't want to be, spending money like water. But then again, whatever is necessary, right? Whatever is necessary for your problem that you would like to tackle, that is just what is necessary. But what you do not want to do is that you incorporate the chaos and the busyness within your workflow, because then you will start to see that your workflow is causing an automatic flow of activities, a chain reaction of activities that all of a sudden also lead to more busyness and chaos. So that doesn't really make sense, right? So let me help you get into the thinking of what it means to really have a strategy when it comes to workflow automation. The first thing, before we even get to the place where we say, these are platforms that you can use, these are platforms that will help you. The first thing that you need to understand is, what is your process? When you start with the process, what happens in the middle of it, and how do you want to end? If you cannot put that on paper and explain it, you need to go to the drawing table first, right? We need to go back to the drawing table, take a notebook, take your pen, and start thinking about that first. Why do you want to do that first? Why is it important for you first to understand, what is it that I start with? What are the tasks that happen in between? And how do I want to end? Because you want to get a clear picture on what your triggers are, what will trigger the process, because that is also how the process will start. What happens in between are the tools and or methods that you are using to eventually get to the end result that you would like to see. And yesterday I spoke about the risks, right? Pros, the cons when it comes to workflow automation, especially for creatives and artists. They are afraid that it might stunt their work. You might be afraid that it will take over your work. You don't want it to interfere with the creativity and the artistic outlet that you are doing. Here's another aspect I'm going to introduce into it that very much has to do with what type of platform that you can use, and also understanding the process from beginning to end. And that is, you probably are already using a lot of tools that already are very much AI led or AI supported. If you're working in Adobe, you're working with AI, all right? You're working with AI. If you're working in Canva, you're working in AI, all right? If you're working with Microsoft Outlook, you're working in AI. If you're working with many of the software programs that we use for our artistic and digital output, yeah, then you already are working for a huge majority of the time with AI. So it's already interfering in your artistic and or creative process. That is the point that I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to make, it is made. All right. So that is another aspect of the story of this timeline that we are in, where a lot of artists and creators are saying, I don't want to mess with AI. I don't want to mess with AI and automation because I feel that it's taking up my time from my creativity and my artistry. Newsflash, you are already working with AI. So welcome to the club. That's all I got to say about that. Welcome to the club. If you're doing your admin, your finances, and you're doing it yourself, but you're using a program, maybe like Zero or any other particular program, you are pretty much also working with AI. More and more software programs are incorporating a co-pilot. They are AI led or AI supported. So the only way for you not to work with these particular tools is to not subscribe to them, which is possible, right? For myself, I've made a decision not to use Adobe. Excuse me, but that had nothing to do with AI. It had to do with the ever increasing subscription costs of Adobe. And I switched over to Affinity. All right. I have affinity for design. I have affinity for publication. I have affinity for photo. And I have to say, I am very content. Each and every single time when there is an update, I get a message, I can update it. It's very user friendly. If you know how to work in Adobe, you can also work in Affinity. And another great thing about Affinity is that it also has an app for the tablet. You can work on it on a desktop. Um, I have no problems. I have no problems. For video editing, I use Wondershare, Filmora, which also has a co-pilot. It has access to FIO. Am I saying it correctly? FIO number 3. So in order for you to use that, you have to use credits. But that is also a great way of not using Adobe Premiere. The reason why so many people are asking for other people, you have to be able to use Adobe Premiere, which I have also worked in, is because that is considered to be the creme de la creme. But coming back to the point, right, that we were talking about yesterday, artists and creators being afraid of using AI, you already do. Okay, so you're a part of the club. All right. So if there are any people who are watching and you are like, well, I'm still not sure, your certainty is not needed. These software platforms have already decided that they want to work this particular way. Okay? They already decided that. And at the same time, they are great options for you if you are saying, I don't want that. I don't want my art or my creativity to be used for training purposes. Then there are options for you to switch over. And I did. For Adobe, I did it. For Wondershare, I mean, it has AI. I don't have a huge problem with it. I think it's a great editing tool for your videos, for short videos, long videos. I've been using it for years, and I bought it when it was still possible to have a lifetime subscription. I bought it then for I think 70 euros. It was years back. And now it's not possible to have a lifetime because everybody's now switching over to subscription models. Yes, everybody's switching over to subscription models, but I have a lifetime. So the only thing that I have to do is that I pay for a monthly subscription when it comes to particular features that I want to use, particular filters, because I do edit a lot of videos for another business that I have, an online learning program for the Sudanese language. So for that, I do use a number of features that I find very handy. So I do have credits for that. But other than that, I have a lifetime access to Wondershare, so I have no reason to switch. I can use it until I don't want to use it. But that is changing. All right. That is very much changing. A lot more software programs, even your favorite newspapers, are switching over to subscription modules. And with subscription modules, in order for that to run very smoothly, the first thing that you need to think about is a lot of AI is being used in that. A lot of automation is being used in that. So even your favorite newspaper is using automation. And that should then not hold you back of saying, oh, well, I can do that too. Yes, you absolutely can do that, right? So let's get into the platforms, right? I've made a small introduction, a small pullback. Good evening for everybody who's joining in here in a TikTok. I see that the number is coming up. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. I would really appreciate it if you could show the love back. I would appreciate it. So, here's what we're going to talk about: the different platforms that are out there. And do you need to use all of the platforms? Can you use the platforms together? Can you use the platforms separately? Um, what is the best platform? We're going to talk about it here. And again, if you have questions, just tap them into the chat. I will have a look at it. If there are no questions, that to me means that you get it. You get everything that it is that I'm saying. So there are no, how do you call that? Misunderstandings, right? Closed mouths do not get fed. Excuse me, people. I'm struggling with this darn chair. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Let me sit comfortably. Yeah, okay. So I hope y'all also sitting comfortably because it's going to be quite the show. So first of all, is there a best platform that you can use? The answer is it depends. It depends. There is not one particular platform that is the best platform. And the reason why is it very much depends on what it is that you want to construct and how complex your automation might be, right? And it also depends on from what angle you are taking it from. There are a number of platforms that we can use for automation. You have the more simple ones like IFTTT. So that is 3 times the T, and it's called If This Then That, which is not such a hard non-coding, which means you do not have to use any coding program or language like Python or JSON or HTML. You don't have to use those things. It is a what you see is what you get type of program. So IFTTT is one of the, I believe, one of the most simple ways of using automation. You can set up maybe sending people an email as soon as they subscribe to your blog. There are automations for social media platforms. It is not your highest sophisticated way of doing it. And what they also probably have is, to give an example, I have hue lights. Hue lights are a particular light that you can switch into different colors so you can set the mood. And even they have automations for that as well. So it's more like a general, it can be business, business kind of personal use. I would not consider that to be something that you would construct your whole business with. All right. But it is a great way for you to make a start. And why do I say that? Because for a lot of people, it can be very intimidating thinking about where do I start with my automation? What happens in between and how do I end? It can be very intimidating to think about because now you have to sit down and actually think about your work. And you're not thinking about how busy you are. You're not thinking about the chaos. It has to be just the work, right? What are you doing? If you cannot say that, again, you have to go back to the drawing table, go back to your desk, take your notebook, take a pen, and start getting that into a picture. But you can also, the platform that I'm on YouTube, you can go to the link that you find on the channel. Here on TikTok, you can go to the link in my bio. There is a possibility, of course, to have like a bespoke offer where I look with you. Hey, what do you have in mind? What is it that you want to get out of it? And we look at it together. So if you are struggling with that and you're like, well, I do need help with that, then there's definitely help in that, right? So that is one of the platforms, IFTTT, right? IFTTT. Are there any questions so far? No questions? Y'all don't have any questions. So that means y'all get it. Y'all absolutely get it. Another platform that you can use, everybody, I think pretty much everyone knows this platform, is of course Zapier. That's Zapier. Yeah, Zapier. Zapier is also a non-coding. I think that you can integrate coding to it with it. But it's also pretty much a what you see is what you get type of platform. It is far more sophisticated than IFTTT, but not yet your most sophisticated, right? It also helps you with, placing documents from one place to the next, creating a chain reaction between different systems. It allows you to do a lot of things. They have subscription modules, so that means that there are different tiers that you can make use of. And that also goes for the platforms N8N and Make Automation. What I use is the Make Automation. I do feel that Make Automation is just above an IFTTT and a Zapier. It is also a what you see is what you get, so you don't have to know any coding. But they are now also incorporating, I think they're just testing it, but they are also incorporating the use of coding. They now also have AI agents. So I've, tested a little bit around with AI agents, and I have to say I'm still up till so far, I'm very impressed. N8N is definitely a platform that can be used for developers. So if you are a developer, definitely want to use that. And why? Because it's an open source platform and you can really construct very nuanced, detailed automations that you just cannot get with a Make Automation or a Zapier. And that has to do with the fact that you can code it. So you can literally code your own program from going from A to Z, wherever you want to start and wherever it wants to end, right? So hearing this explanation should actually already tell you that there is no right or wrong answer in what platform you want to use, right? It depends on how and what it is that you want to achieve. And I do believe that for a lot of people, it is quite hard to say, this is what I want. The only thing that you can say is, well, this is the amount of work that I have. I want to set up a particular system that allows for people to fill in this form, and then whoop, I get this particular report, or I have this report, and whoop, there needs to be a product out of that, and it's going to be a white label product, and we want you to construct and connect all of these things, all of these systems with each other. Most people think in that particular way when they have the opportunity to work with workflow automation or want somebody to work with workflow automation. The one thing that people do not ask themselves, and this is the thing that I want you now to ask yourself, you have to now ask yourself this is, does it make sense? Does it make sense? Not because you can automate everything does it mean that you need to be automating all of it. Because what tends to happen is that people want to have a solution in which their use of existing modules now need to be connected all with each other. Here they are working with a particular accounting system that needs to be coupled with a CRM system. And from a CRM system, it now needs to be coupled with a particular form. And there needs to be bloop, something coming out of it. You have to ask yourself, does it make sense what it is that we want out of it? And the process, as we have been doing it right now, has that always been something that is efficient, that brings us the best result? Or is workflow automation now confronting us with the fact that what we have been doing might not be the smartest thing that we have been doing for a while? That's a really hard question. And because it's such a complex question, most people want to skip over that. They rather skip over that. Just give us the solution, the AI, the automate. Just give us to that. Give us that. But here's the thing about AI, right? AI is a learning module, and it is a module that works best based on the data that it has been able to collect on your work, the way that you think, the way that you do a particular activity. If you are a writer, even, or you are using reasoning a lot for whatever particular reason, you have to be able to train that module. It's not just something that you're using as a simple Casio calculator, even though people are using it like that right now, right? You just put something in it, or magically something else, an answer appears out of that. A report appears out of that. A manual appears out of that. But these are your generic trinkets, right? They're fun, but not for a long time. What you will start to notice is you will have to train it, and it has to be very specific to what it is that you are programming it to do. What is it that you want it to do? What needs to come out of that? That then also means if you're working with a lot of different modules that normally really don't work with each other, they are standalone, and now you want to make all of these connections with each other, you have to ask yourself, if you're using AI, what purpose would that module have in your whole workflow to be using AI? Not every automation needs for you to have AI. It's not necessary. AI is not the remedy, it's not the silver bullet that now will do the thinking for you. And even if you're using an AI agent, you have to tell the AI agent what it needs to do. And if an AI agent, based on a workflow automation that you're setting up, cannot come to a desired result, because an AI agent cannot do everything, it's very limited to one particular task that you are telling it to do, then you are just, it's just playing around, right? We are just looking into it and we just want to play around and tell people we are using workflow automation just because it sounds fancy and it sounds very, alluring for maybe your customers that you have. Yeah, maybe for them, but you are losing into it. Eventually, you're going to lose into it because you have not been able to construct a database, a set of information that allows for you to train a module, to allow for you to really be very specific about what it is that you want to have out of it. That in itself will then also determine what platform you want to use, and if it is even necessary for you to use AI. Because to be quite frank with you, I have a number of workflow automations in which I do not use AI. It's not necessary. It's not. Yeah. AI is a supportive system. AI can be a feedback. It gives good feedback. It can be a supportive system. It can reason. Um, Depending on what particular language model you're using, and it can be Perplexity, it can be ChatGPT. You have to be aware that they are not all the same. They are not all the same. ChatGPT does not have the possibility to look up information on the internet in the moment that you are using it. Perplexity does. Perplexity has that ability to look up information as a workflow automation is set to be active. It looks up information. But then again, do you want the information that comes out of it to be given as a recital of all of those facts? Probably not. Definitely not if you're using a blog. You don't want to see all those citations in the blog because you have to check it as well. You always have to check your work. So that means you have to be very mindful of how you use chat, how you use language modules, which one you want to use, and how you are training them with the prompt that you have. Is it necessary for you to do that? Not always. Not always. Yeah. It's like, unfortunately, what you see with a lot of businesses, and I also believe like with a lot of people who want to get into workflow automation, and they now want to incorporate AI into it, or want to do something really fancy with it. It's like using a chainsaw to cut a piece of chicken. It's too much. It's too much. Why are you doing that? It's too much. And it's also not necessary, right? So, why have I then chosen the Make automation platform and not N8N? First of all, I'm not a developer. So, for me, from a standpoint where I am at, I'm not going to use N8N. I don't have to use N8N because I'm a developer, but for the capacity that it brings to people, it might be far more beneficial for me to use a Make automation platform that has definitely sophisticated ways for you to set up templates for your workflow automation instead of N8N. Instead of an N8N. That for me would then be like one level going further than I actually need to go. If I had a team and there was a developer into it, and I would discuss within the team, well, what automation platform we are going to use, and it would be the developers team with the task of making those automations, yeah, then probably he or she would say, I want to use N8N because I'm more comfortable using that, but I'm not that developer, so that doesn't make any sense for me to use it. Right? So that is a question that I've asked myself, and I can answer it. It makes sense to me. Right? It can make sense to me. Furthermore, I also used language modules before I started to incorporate them into the concept of workflow automation. I have sat and did some testing with those things for quite some time. And the reason why I did that because is you have to understand what it is that you're working with. A lot of y'all are now being bombarded with all of this information on TikTok, maybe on YouTube as well. This is how you can use it to make a manual. This is how you can use it to sell digital goods. This is how you can use it to make a X, Y, and Z, fill in the blank. But they are not explaining to you why the module is the way that it is, what it does, what its purpose is. Why does it reason in that particular way? Why do you get a different result within ChatGPT and in Perplexity or in a Mistral or in a DeepSeek? Why? To give another example, for my other business, for the online learning program, I do use AI avatars. So that means I do use AI images and I create them completely from scratch. But what I do is I create the images in Sora or in DALI. And if I want to make a video out of it, I go to Kling because I'm not really a fan of the Sora program that they have. And the upgrade that they have made in Sora to be in my understanding, a social media app is not really something that I'm interested in. So I go further into Kling. Like I already said, my Wondershare, the video editor that I use, Wondershare Filmora, also has FIO, if I'm saying correctly. I can use it in there as well. I like it too. Am I a huge fan? I don't know. I don't know. But the way that it's coming out of Kling, Kling, I absolutely love it. And I use those images and videos to create my content for the programs. But I also use that in the language programs. This all is a process of understanding what AI is. What can you do with it? Where do you want to stop? Where do you want to go further? Where do you want to implement it? So that actually means there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to the platform that you want to choose. It really isn't. So people who are saying, yeah, but I think that N8N is the better choice, go ahead. I'm not stopping you. You're not getting, you're not stealing money out of my pocket to go on N8N. Go. You should go and use it. But do not get distracted by what people are, maybe throwing around when it comes to arguments of these are the pros and the cons, and this is why you have to use this platform. What you need to ask yourself is, what do I want to achieve? What is the goal? Because no matter what platform you are using, all platforms are asking you the same question in the beginning. What is your trigger? What is the process? What is the activity that will trigger the whole process? What is it? And if you do not even know what it is, because you just want to automate your business, automate the chaos away, that is not good. Okay, that is so not good. So I'm checking if there are any questions. No questions. No. No questions. That is not good. Every platform is going to ask you, what is the trigger? Where do you want to start? And where do you want to end? Now, how many steps are necessary depends on what it is that you want to do. What does it need to do for you? Hmm? What does it need to do for you? What should be the end result? So if you want to come to the point where you are saving time and you want to go back to the place where you're saying, yes, I'm now focusing on the work when it comes to my creativity. I can actually feel and see, also measure that I'm more productive because I'm saving time. I'm getting more results out of it. Or, overall, just having a better feeling about what it is that you do. That is just as important. It weighs very heavily too. You have to have a clear understanding of what it is that you do. And I don't mean it in a sense of, you being not, being a novel into this. This is the first time that you're getting into it. So you do not know what it is that you're doing. That's just a learning curve. So don't worry about that. The learning curve is not something that you need to be worried about. What you should be really focused on is, what is my strategy? What is the process, right? If you would have to make a diagram, a tree diagram out of it, what triggers the next step and what will come out of it? And when it triggers each other, am I satisfied with the result? Can I measure it now? Probably so. Probably you will now have an opportunity to measure what it is that you're now doing. Because if you are able to put it in context, then it also becomes easier to measure what the result of it might be. And it's not just you doing something, running around like a headless chicken or thinking, well, I'm busy. This is just part of the work. Yeah, I understand that. But how is it part of the work? How? The question is how. So you can already imagine that this is not something for the faint-hearted. This is not for the people who are saying, I'm just going to do it. Yeah, the more simple it is, the better you can say, doesn't take much, right? Doesn't take much. Or for any business to have a decent amount of growth, a particular cash flow that you would like to have, a particular vision that you would like to go for. Think about those things first. Mm-hmm. Think about those things first. And yesterday I've mentioned a couple of examples, right? So maybe today we can also name a number of examples as well. A number of examples that can help us really get a clear illustration of, well, what do you mean? I have to get a clear vision about that. What do you mean I need to have a clear understanding of what it is? Well, let's say you are a sculptor and you have a small team of 3 people. So one person is responsible for the finances, the other person is the salesperson, right? The sales representative. And you have a personal assistant, right? Then it should not be your goal wanting to put a system, an automation system that has the sales assistant speak with the personal assistant and the sales representative speak to the finance department. That doesn't make any sense. Don't do that. Don't do that. You should be very mindful of thinking, well, maybe this particular automation can take over somebody's work. As much as there are automations that run fully themselves, because I have them, one of the automations that I have is that I automatically post to LinkedIn multiple times a day. I don't look at the automation because it just runs itself, right? It just runs itself. I don't have to do a darn thing. But certain automations do need human interference. So you probably want to ask yourself, how far do I go into that? And how important is it for me to have the human interference? Don't be like these big corps, the corporations, I mean, right? Don't be like them. Don't do that. You could probably ask yourself, with the example that I've given, what is it that your team needs the most, or what are they struggling with the most? And see if workflow automation would work in that particular way. Eventually leading to a higher productivity, eventually leading to more satisfied employees, and eventually also leading to, of course, the continuation of your business that you would like to have. Okay? It's very important to have that. So, one book that I want to advise, I will keep on talking about this book till I don't know when, but it's very important to have that in mind. One of the books that started it all for me is the book by Timothy Ferriss. Timothy Ferriss here. This is the Dutch version that I have. The English version is called a 4-Hour Work Week. A 4-hour work week, which already goes into the whole concept of how can we work more cost effectively and more efficiently. Because I can guarantee you that when you read this book, you will start to ask yourself, well, what is it that I now can do? It kind of sparks things. And books are like manuals, they give you instructions on information that you normally would not find on the internet. What you're finding on the internet right now is not the same what is in this book. But all of these people are talking about when it comes to digital goods, it's not the same as what you find there in the book. They are selling you something about digital goods. Books like these explain the thought behind it, of why it's such a successful system and how it works. Why having a VA, which can also be part of your automation process, a VA is a virtual assistant, it can be part of your process, why that might be very helpful. How automatic workflow automation on platforms like IFTTT, Zapier, Make automation, and 8N. And so the list goes on for many automations. You even have lead automations. So that means that there is a platform that will find leads for you. You have scrapers, internet. There is infinite amount of possibility, but you have to become very clear in the beginning. What is it that I want to do? What triggers the process? What happens in between, and what ends it? And that has to then happen in a scheduled, continuous way. Yes, that's the way that it needs to happen. Okay. Are there any questions so far? Are there any questions? No, there are no questions. So that means y'all get it. So that also means that when I'm telling you, if you want to take a course, that you now have the possibility to go to the link in the bio. All of this, what I'm explaining, is of course on one particular level, right? It's the first, very, very first thin layer where we are. And then you start building upwards. And the way that you build upwards is by having places where you get to practice, places where people can get you templates, places where people can actually demonstrate to you how it all works. So in order for you to get to that particular level, you have the possibility to join my newsletter, where I will be speaking regularly about workflow automation. There are also other topics that I talk about. I give insight in the creative and artistic market. But the main point is for me to teach you how you can save your time so that you can go back to what it is that you love doing. Right? Like I'm going back to now being able to spend more time with my art, or more time in writing, or thinking about other great things that I would like to do. Right? How can I improve my business? Because a huge part of manual tasks like social media, like blog post writing, reposting, creating lesson programs, and so the list goes on, a huge portion of that is automated, which makes the work for me so much more easier. But I'm saving time, and I'm not grumpy. I don't have to sit from 8 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock at night, right? I get to schedule the work even into the future. In planning your work, these can be posts, these can be blog posts, these can be mail letters, mailing lists, because having a mailing list is very important. Definitely when it comes to automation, have a mailing list. But that will be a whole different conversation. I'm not going to have it here, but that's just going to be a conversation where there is so much information about that, practical information. We're going to have like a training session about that, right? We're going to have a training session about that. So when you are ready to train with me, and I have a number of resources on my platform. The people on TikTok, you can go to the link in the bio. If you're on YouTube, you go to the channel and you click on the link, you will see a number of resources that I have over there. And if you are watching this, and you have been watching it now for the whole, from beginning to end, then now is the time for you to start making decisions, even before we get to the end of this year. Do not go to the end of the year or the beginning of the first day of the year, new year, and be like, okay, now I'm ready. You're too late. Why am I saying that you're too late? You now have maybe 7 weeks or 6 to have a head start on automating whatever it is that you want to automate into the new year so that when the new year starts, you're smooth sailing. Proactive thinking. That is what we need to get ourselves into. Proactive thinking, not thinking when everything is done and now you're going to sit back and think and be like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. No, that is too late. Proactive thinking. And if proactive thinking is not your forte, then this is definitely not going to be something that you want to get into. I'm just going to be honest. This is not a platform I'm going to razzle dazzle. This is not a platform where you're going to get the magic or this is going to be a feel good program. Many other platforms and choices that you can make a decision out of. This is a platform where I'm really asking only those people who have that capability and are ready to make that step into the right direction to start their training through my platform. You do that by subscribing to the mailing list always. Then there are great opportunities to have my resources. These are digital goods. These are templates that you can acquire. And of course, trainings. There is also a possibility to have like custom consultancy structuring of your workflow, which brings a lot more ease and peace. And only for those people who have bought, right, who have acquired a program with me, a training with me, you will come into a special group where there is an aftercare. So that means we get to keep talking about this, right? If you have questions, you can come back to the group and it's like, hey, I have a question about this. How do I do this? How do I do that? You know, I've been noticing this, or I want to create another thing. Do you think that this might be working? And that is the special group that we have for that. It's like an aftercare group. Because automation, what I've noticed is that automation will make you go for more only if it's necessary, but it will definitely make you think about doing things more efficiently. The first time that you're setting something up, it might be like, okay, I set something up, and then you walk away, and then 3 days later, it's like, yeah, but wait a minute. Why didn't I think about that earlier? Wait, let me just fix this little part, and then you constructing even more efficiency. Or you are, you're doing something and there's an error and it's like, wait a minute, why is that error over there? And you start to go, you start to delve deep into it and it's like, oh, so that is not possible, or I have to do it differently. And once you get over that hurdle, you solve the error and it's running, it gives you the feeling of this accomplishment of knowing that you can be a leader, a creative, artistic leader in your own business. And not just the bystander, not just an executor of all of these things that you have to do, all of these hats that you are wearing. You're wearing the hat of the social media manager. You're wearing the hat of the financial manager. You're wearing the hat of the bookkeeper. Wearing the hat of the sales representative. You're wearing the hat of the copywriter. Yeah, that's cute. And now let's move on. Let's move on to the next point. Yeah, let's grow. Let's mature now. It's cute that you are, you have been in the process of, yeah, I'm doing it all by myself. Let's now move to the point where we don't have to do that. Let's now really step into the role of being leaders. Let's assume position. But again, this is only for people who can do that. So I'm not speaking to people who are hobbyists. I'm not speaking to people who are occasionally, or people who are kind of scared or anxious. You need to get over that first. That is something that you have to deal with for yourself first. You have to ask yourself first, why am I anxious? Because I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a very smart lady and have a lot of insight through the wisdom and experiences that I have had in life. But those are things that I had to overcome first before I allowed myself to say, take the wheel. I want to be more delegating in my creative force and in my artistic force. I don't want to be sitting here and do all of those things and all of those hats. No. That does not make me a better leader. And it sounds cool for the social media, but it's not cool when you are up 6 o'clock in the morning and you're working all the way through the day, which could have been prevented It can be done better. But again, it's only for those who want to mature into that position. If you don't want to mature into in this position, don't do it. Don't do it. Right? Don't do it. But when you are serious about your business, when you're serious about your life, when you're serious about what it is that you do, then you will understand that the problems that have, that need to be solved in a way that it doesn't reoccur, that there is a solid structural solution that can even scale itself into more opportunities. But not everybody thinks that way. You can learn to think that way. I'm not saying that you cannot do that. You can definitely learn to think that way. I learned to think that way. But let me tell you this book I bought in 2013 is 2025. Do the math on how long it took for me to start thinking in that particular way and how many beliefs I had to not undo, but reprogram. I had to reprogram myself. Even me here sitting, right, talking to you all, is not from a place where I'm saying, well, you have to buy, you have to buy, you have to buy. I'm sitting here because I'm already convinced of the thing that it is working. And I see the benefit of it, of what it can do for other people. But I also understand it's only for a few, right? It's for a few people who see it as well, but have not, you just need support. You need the support, you need the tools, you need the resources, you need solid resources. And for that, you definitely can go to the link in the bio. The link in the bio is going to lead you to a page where you can find all of that, right? So I do expect from people who are now watching these videos to go to the link in the bio and not to be so inactive. Don't be so passive. And don't pacify yourself. Take the pacifier out of your mouth. Start doing the work. There is no magic pill and there is no silver bullet. And AI is definitely not a silver bullet. If you do not know what it is that you're doing, it's not a silver bullet. All right? Good. So I've been talking for quite some time. I'm going to leave y'all to a great evening, afternoon, or morning, whatever it is. I will be back tomorrow. It will be a lot earlier, so it will be somewhere in the morning or in the after. I definitely think in the morning. So have a look on the next show. Again, take action. Go to the link in the bio. Subscribe for the newsletter. Take the courses. Take the resources. If you have questions, closed mouths do not get fed. Open up your mouth and start taking control of how you can now be the creative and artistic leader in your own life, right? How you can now take control over it. You don't have to wear all of those hats. It's not necessary. A lot of them can definitely be automated. All right. See y'all next time. Have a good one. Have a good weekend if you're not here anymore. All right. And stay safe. Bye, y'all.